Hear what Senator John Thune thought of HHS Secretary Kathleen Sebelius. I'm sure he has something to say.
We have Donnie Deutsch and Nicole Wallace, Jeremy Peters still with us, patiently trudging through 3 hours of Red Sox adoration. We thank you all.
We're just a little tired.
John, we miss you. But tell us, how did Kathleen Sebelius do yesterday?
Probably as well as could be expected, Joe, but she had it's really hard to defend. I mean, the website rollout is one thing, and they'll get that fixed. Everybody knows that eventually. It's embarrassing, I think, for them to have to come up and explain this and defend what was a major disaster. But I think, as the president said, this isn't just a website, it's much more. And I think the things that are going to be harder for them to defend are the canceled policies, the insurance premium increases, all the things that are, hitting middle-class Americans now. I think that's the real problem the administration has with its health care plan.
Nicole Wallace.
We have a moment
Question for Jonathan?
Yes, we haven't seen this in a long time, but I opened up Time magazine this morning, and they're pointing to problems in the president's credibility. I opened up the Washington Post, and they're talking about the falsehoods that he uttered repeatedly when he told the American people that if they like their health insurance plan, they could keep it. If they like their doctor, they could keep him or her. How do Republicans do something productive and constructive with this rare moment that we have?
Well, it's nice that the Democrats have let us get it back on offense, Nicole, because, as you know, we've been taking a lot of punches here lately. But I think this presents an opportunity for us to talk about alternatives, positive alternatives that are market-based, that would address some of the problems that we have in the healthcare system delivery and insurance coverage today. But I think that the problem the administration has right now is, as you pointed out, they made all these promises, and now they just appear to be broken promises. And when you get 4 Pinocchios from the Washington Post for saying if you like your insurance, you can keep it, period. And then you have, all these people are having their policies canceled. It makes it very clear that if the White House likes your insurance, you can keep it. But if you like it, you may not be able to. And I think that's a big problem for us. But Republicans, we need to be thoughtful about this. We need to talk about what we'd be for.
Senator Donnie Deutsch, obviously you guys have great talking points now beyond the website, and I think you, apropos, are moving off that into the actual substance. But is it a little bit of a head fake as far as the fact that people can't keep their own insurance versus the reason they can't is because it doesn't live up to the standards of either expanded coverage or the premiums are higher?
Well, but they should have said that, Don. I mean, it would have been very easy for the president to make that point, that if you could get coverage, but you're going to have to get the pre-approved government coverage as opposed to the policy that you may have now and like. And so I just think that the way that this was rolled out, the rhetoric around it, the whole narrative now is completely being undermined. And I think that's a real problem for the administration. And it's an opportunity for us as Republicans not just to attack this, but to also say, okay, we've got a better way. But I do think that you're going to see more Democrats coming to the view that we ought to delay this. The president, of course, has delayed the employer mandate for big businesses. I think a lot of people across this country think if they get that delay, why don't we get this delay? It's clearly not ready for prime time, as I think the rollout has evidence. But, this is an issue that's going to be debated for a long time. It's going to be debated going into next year. We're just all very grateful to the Democrats and the president that, now the shutdown's over, we're talking about something else.
Senator Jeremy Peters from your favorite newspaper, New York Times, has a question for you.
Hey, Jeremy. Yeah, okay.
Good morning, Senator. I want to look ahead here for a minute. And as you know, this White House is very good at putting up issues that divide the Republican Party, like immigration reform, for example. And we know that that's going to happen again probably next year. So what would your advice be to Republicans to keep their message focused in a positive way on their issues and avoid getting dragged back into another party feud?
Well, what I've tried to encourage my colleagues in the Senate, and of course anybody who will listen, Jeremy, is to keep focused on the pocketbook issues, the bread and butter issues, the kitchen table issues the American people care about. And that is, how do we grow the economy? How do we create jobs? How do we improve the take-home pay for middle-class Americans? And of course, Obamacare plays into that because of the higher premiums, higher health care costs. Those are things that do affect Americans every single day. The president and his allies up here in Congress, you're right, are going to try and pick these wedge issues that that divide Republicans. I think that it's important for us as Republicans to stay focused on the message that we think is a winning one with the American people and start to bring those poll numbers back up, because I think we have an opportunity to recover here, but we need to approach these issues in the right way and articulate a message that I think is a winning one with the American people, and that's jobs in the economy and higher take-home pay and better standard of living for middle-class Americans.
Senator, you've mentioned messaging and opportunity for Republicans out of this moment where the administration is having difficulty. Yet, so how do you deal with that ideologically rigid element of your party that seems intent quite often on bringing it back to, we've got to, completely eliminate Obamacare? How do you deal with that internally within your party?
Well, I think we have to win the argument, Mike, that Republicans can be conservative, they can be principled, but we have to be smart, we have to be strategic, and we've got to be thinking about, how are we going to position ourselves for the long game? And the long game, there are lots of short games that get played here in Washington, the news cycle day to day to day, but the long game is winning elections. And if you want to win elections, you've got to position yourselves in a way that are attractive, that is attractive to the American people. And that's why I think that, yes, we have voices here in Washington, D.C. We have people who are very conservative and also very principled about that. But we've also got to be practical, we've got to be smart, and we've got to play the long game. And that's the message I'm trying to carry to my colleagues, and hopefully, eventually we'll prevail with that.
Senator, to follow up on that brilliant question from the brilliant Mike Barnicle, are you content to work
who's very weary today, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Are you content to work within the confines of Obamacare? I mean, let's stipulate this. He's not going to sign any legislation that repeals fully Obamacare. It won't happen until he's out of office. So now, knowing that, are you content to work within the confines of Obamacare and pass legislation that might change it but not completely wipe it off the map?
Well, I'll tell you, Donnie, I think most of us believe as Republicans that it's built on a faulty foundation. The policy itself is bad and that it's going to crumble, and that on a substance level, it's going to be really hard to make this thing pencil out. I mean, we argued for a long time that it just doesn't add up, the math doesn't work. So, of course, we would like to go back and do this over. But obviously, in the near term, we want to spare as many people as we can from the harmful effects of this law. And we'll see. I mean, maybe there will be some movement, some cracks among Democrats. We're already starting to see that, who are recognizing that this is very hard to defend with their constituents who are seeing these canceled policies and these insurance rate increases. But, in the end, we'd like to go in a different direction. And I think that's the case we'd like to take to the American people.
All right. Hey, John, it's
Senator
always
John Thune.
great talking to you.
Hey,
when you
Joe,
started talking,
I was impressed with you. I saw you out there running on the warning track, and you didn't stop.
Yeah.
I mean, there were no donut breaks or anything, and it was just really impressive. But
if I were,
there was a donut break.
If I were Donnie Deutsch right now, I would prove how macho I was by taking off my jacket and having a Baby Gap T-shirt on and doing 30 push-ups. But I think I've proven my athletic prowess. By the way, John Thune, Mike Barnicle, a great basketball player.
Oh no!
Don't do it, Donnie. But John Thune, a great basketball player, a great athlete, and a great guy.
Oh God!
Oh God! What are we doing? Get off of that!
Congratulations to Mike. We're all Red Sox fans today, so have fun up there, guys. Wish I was there.
Thank you. Senator,
Yeah, I will. Thanks, Mika.
Thank you.
Okay.